Welcome to Discover Startups, a show that shines a light on early-stage founders and the ideas behind the businesses they're building. I'm Georgie Brown, and on today's show, how Bella Acland is reinventing one of the most overlooked categories in food: soup. Bella first spotted the problem back at university when she and her friends were living off cheap, instant meals that were quick, but hardly nourishing. Later, working as a chef and in food startups, she realised the soup aisle hadn't changed in decades. Instant meant bland, ultra-processed and low value. So she set out to create Soul Kitchen, a new take on instant soup that's convenient, natural and actually tastes good. Today, Bella's building a brand that proves convenience doesn't have to mean compromise. Bella, thank you so much for joining me on the show.
Thank you very much for that intro, Georgie.
No worries. It's such a pleasure having you here today to chat about everything. I guess for those that don't know you yet, it'd be great to find out a bit more about who you are and what Soul Kitchen is all about.
Yes, my name is Bella and my friends refer to me as the crazy soup lady. I have launched an instant soup company called Soul Kitchen, and it is my mission to make healthy eating a lot more convenient. At the moment, we're doing that through the channel of clean label instant soups. By clean label, I mean we don't use anything unusual, nothing that you wouldn't recognise on the back of pack. So these are no artificial flavours, no gums, emulsifiers or palm oil, just veg-packed instant soups which are ready in minutes. And great for on those kind of rush around busy days and people looking for a healthier alternative.
I mean, it sounds fantastic. I've obviously tried a few of your products before we jumped on the call today, and I've very much enjoyed them for my lunches recently. Has your career thus far always been focused in food, or is this something that you've kind of discovered a passion for later on?
It's funny how it's all fallen into place. I'd always count myself as a massive foodie. I was lucky enough to be surrounded by food kind of growing up. My mum's an amazing cook, lived on a working farm, so kind of familiar with the food system we live in, but studied zoology at university. Thought I'd kind of maybe end up in conservation or biology of some sort, but actually graduated during COVID. And it was hard. It was difficult to sort of find your path at that time, but I fell into food and drink, and I'm so glad I did. I freelanced in hospitality and as a chef throughout this whole journey, actually, but my first ever job out of university was in a startup. So I was lucky to get that experience so early on.
And was that a food startup, or was it a different sort of industry that you're in?
Food and drink. It was a sales role for actually a very well-known wholesaler who I'm still in touch with today. They kind of specialise in independent food and drink brands and help support that brand into retail. So I was kind of exposed at quite an early stage in my career into like the route to market and also some of the commercial side of building a brand and sales. So it was a great way to build the foundations, really.
What a great opportunity to sort of learn the industry and understand all the different aspects of what's going on there. And with soup specifically, what was the spark or that moment that you realised that soup was the area of the food industry that you really wanted to focus on?
Soup was a core comfort food for me, and I think for so many, it's a category that it's so international. There's soups all over the world. I loved traveling when I was a bit younger, and I sort of found all those different cultures and how they celebrate this amazing, comforting, nourishing food. And then I think the disconnect between fresh soup and instant soup is what really spurred me on, actually, because as you might be familiar, unfortunately, the ambient soup aisle is considered low value, low nutritional value, and poor quality. So in my eyes, there was just this huge opportunity to give it some love and give it some innovation, really.
And for those that aren't so familiar with the soup industry, is ambient soup, is that what we're talking about, the packaged stuff, not the fresh stuff in the refrigerated section? We're more talking on shelf, in the back of your cupboard, ready to go when you need it.
Exactly that, Georgie. So it's everything out of the fridge space. You're looking in the aisle with canned foods. It might be fit with the canned tomatoes and then packet soups, pot noodle. So it's long shelf life, definitely people are looking for that ease of preparation moment. And then that time poor consumer is kind of where we hang out, really.
Fantastic. I mean, soup for me personally has always been a great love. I think we're coming into soup season now as I look at the rain outside, very much cozy soup for lunch season. Have you seen any changes in the way people are sort of making themselves lunch that really made you realise this is what you need to go all in on?
Yeah, it's funny because I always count myself as like such a warm weather summer girly, and then when soup comes, I'm like, yes, it's cold again. But I think, yeah, your question on kind of consumer shift and that sort of consumption occasion, it's definitely, we're just getting busier. And I worked in office spaces. I'm based in London, and I'm noticing people pick up their meal deals and they're bringing in maybe some leftovers from the night before. But I think on the whole, it's people cut corners when they're short on time, and that's where health is often the first to go. So we're looking at crisps, and even protein bars and other sort of convenience foods are not really as healthy as they could be because they're just convenient. They're the only option out there, and they might sit in your cupboard and last a long time. So it's often forgotten, I think, when we're busy.
I couldn't agree more. And I think with, I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home right now. But when I was working an office job, it felt like the options were bring in leftovers or spend an absolute fortune on buying food out and about in town for lunch. We've seen a bit of a trend with the cost of living crisis in the UK, of people looking more for affordable options that they can take with them, that they're not having to prep so much the night before.
Yes, I think there's definitely a shift with that sort of work from home behaviour. But I think what's interesting is people are very loyal. I think at lunchtimes, people stick to what they know. They actually are either a soup person and they'll have soup every day alongside a sandwich, or they'll stick to their meal deal that they know and they love. So it's about kind of making the choice easy for people and maybe filling a gap in that lunch menu that they didn't know they needed until they found something that is offering both convenience and nutrition and the quality. So it's an exciting category, because I think the point is no one's really done it before, and we're familiar with pot noodle, and there's actually been some amazing innovation in that space, but soup is still pretty untouched, to be honest.
So when most people hear instant soup, they don't necessarily think of it as the most aspirational meal. Why do you think the soup category has had so little innovation as opposed to other parts of the food and drink industry?
So fresh soup, I think, has had some really amazing brands come through, and I've loved following their journey. It's just a different consumer is looking for a chilled soup at a time where they might have more access to a kitchen and washing up and a bowl. But I think instant soup is predominantly popular with a slightly elderly market. It might be something that our parents were used to when they were a bit younger. And I believe buyers are actually having quite a challenge with recruiting younger shoppers. A lot of interesting points of why people are so turning away from the category. I personally believe it's because there is this shift towards healthy eating, and people are looking at the back of pack and they are understanding what goes into their food and also what makes them feel good in terms of gut health or energy aspect. But I think the innovation is often led by challenger brands, and there aren't many challenger brands on the instant soup shelf at the moment, so often dominated by Bachelor's, Heinz, and a few other big brands who've just stayed the same. They put their prices up, but they haven't needed to change the product, because I think they've probably got quite a core shopper who aren't really looking for anything too exciting. So I think that just highlights the role of a challenger brand in that category, and how important it is to bring some excitement, bring some nutrition, and bring some new shoppers in.
Very much. And I can imagine it's a really great opportunity to bring some more eyeballs back to that area of the supermarket that may feel like a second thought area to go to. When you shop in the canned section, it's maybe because I want to have some stuff in the back of the cupboard that I can get if I need it. But the innovation that you're bringing to the soup aisle is really exciting, to bring new attention to something that I think has been quite legacy for a while.
Yeah, I'm really excited about that opportunity too.
And when we were just chatting now, you briefly mentioned shifts in behavior around health, gut health. Ultra-processed foods are very topical at the moment, and I think quite commonly associated with instant products. What do you wish people better understood about the spectrum between processed foods and ultra-processed foods, especially when it comes to convenient foods and obviously the instant soup category?
It's a really, really interesting topic. I've done my own research, done lots of reading into it, and there's a lot more out there now which people read online, and I agree there is a bit of a confusion. I think first and foremost, I'd always encourage people to scratch cook where they can. I love my soups, but I also have a fresh soup on the go. I'll also have homemade pasta sauces. I'll make as much as I can, but I think it's, like I said, that meeting people in the middle, really, for when they don't have the time, don't have the space, haven't had a chance to go to shops. It happens, and it's okay to compromise, but I think the compromise we're making is far, far better than anyone else out there. So when we were developing recipes, we made a real focus on every single ingredient. We had to question why it was going in, what the function was. So we avoid these palm oil, the seed oils, gums, emulsifiers, stabilizers. You wouldn't believe what else can go into, as you say, these other instant foods. We are, of course, ultra processed. The soups are made from real vegetable powders, but they are as close to their whole vegetable counterpart as they can be, really, for that convenient long shelf life and also nutrient dense format. The actual process they go through, essentially the vegetables are harvested at peak, they're cleaned, sorted, dried, chopped, dehydrated at low temperatures. That's really important for us. We have found some great processes depending on the vegetable and the moisture content. The low temperature is important, helps preserve as many nutrients as we can. And then they're milled into a fine powder. And that milling process is really normal across food and drink. It's how you make herbs and spices, matcha. A lot of other powdered foods are simply ground up into a very fine powder. But it's leaving out those extra cheap ingredients, which is what the mass food producers do to cut costs. We use 70 to 80% real veg, and some of our competitors are sitting at about 2 to 3%.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
That's the main difference when you look at comparison and why we cost slightly more. That it really does come down to not choosing the cheap fillers, which are artificially flavored. It's about using real food, which is flavored naturally with herbs and spices. So it's an interesting one, the ultra processed food, because we're long shelf life, and we definitely would never hide the fact that this is processed ingredient. The quality and the recipe, how the recipes are made up is where you're doing your body a favor.
It's amazing to hear, because I think so many people unfortunately associate ultra processed with low quality, and what you've just explained by taking us through that is you can still have ultra processed food that have this high quality. They are nutrient dense, but it's about making those conscious decisions as a business owner, as a food developer, to take away the nasties, the gums, the stabilizers. And I think it's great to hear that you guys are really not just reinventing the soup category, but proving that you can still have that ultra processed convenience without the inconvenience of all the nasties and the things that aren't that great for us.
Exactly. And actually it was really struck me that we have this issue with our food system when we were trying to find the perfect manufacturer partner, because manufacturers are only too familiar with cutting corners and cutting costs. So actually trying to communicate this standard was really hard. Some of them just didn't understand the vision. Some of them weren't willing to kind of make the change. So actually the partners we've got now are just so fantastically aligned with doing the right thing. And it's really, really exciting to be working with them on that.
It sounds like you've really met some fantastic people. Where are you currently manufacturing the product? Is it manufactured in the UK or abroad?
It's all based in the UK. We have recently actually formed a very strong partnership with our manufacturing partners. They came on board originally as co-manufacturers, and they loved it so much they're now business partners, which is so flattering for me and so encouraging for me, because I think having expertise that they also run a brand in the wellness space, and their current offering is so aligned with whole food nutrition. Their B Corp, which is fantastic. The packaging and the whole circular system setup is really lovely to learn from, and it makes the whole sales process really lovely, because I have so much belief, so much trust in them as partners, that actually I think the conversations I've had with retailers and wholesalers are just really encouraging, and everyone's really buying into the brand as a whole, knowing that we do what we say.
I think that's really fantastic, and it's great to hear that you guys are using British manufacturers, especially in this instant food category. As far as the rest of the supply chain goes, is the vegetables that are being sourced as well, are they coming from the UK, or are they being sourced further afield?
A lot of our core ingredients are sourced from all over the world, simply due to where the best ingredients are grown. So we have a fantastic beetroot supplier from Poland, produce a lot of beetroot in Poland. Our potato flakes are UK grown. A lot of herbs and spices come from the Middle East and from Asia. We definitely have very good traceability in all of our ingredients, but as a whole, they are sourced from all over. And we're constantly trying new ones, interested in that functional-led new product development. So actually this week we've had some matcha in the kitchen and some lion's mane mushroom powder, which is a fantastic new product that we're looking at developing, so in time for winter. So yeah, watch this space.
Very exciting. Yes, functional mushrooms sound like a fantastic thing to have in soup as an additional thing. Maybe to move on to talk about the product itself a bit more, can you talk me through sort of how it works? What's that consumer experience when you get your first box of Soul Kitchen delivered? How does the product work? How do people use it?
Yeah, so we are as familiar as you would be with an instant soup, but we champion bold flavours and bold nutrition. So the flavour range at the moment is very much internationally inspired. We've got this delicious creamy Thai style beetroot and coconut. It's lovely aromatic. You get a real kick from the ginger and a bit of bird's eye chili in there. We have a curried sweet potato and pumpkin, which is our best seller, to be honest. It's very autumnal, very root vegetables, so deep, rich, comforting, and a lovely bit of warming curry spice from sort of ginger, turmeric, cumin. And then our Mexican style red pepper and tomato is inspired by a classic tomato soup, but with a slightly spicy twist. Sort of Mexican inspired is definitely fresh flavors, a bit like a fajita seasoning, as my partner would say, but very nutritious. We don't add any sugar to any of our recipes, and that's been really interesting to get right. We balance that using other ingredients. So, for example, red pepper is a natural sweetener and it's packed with vitamin C. So it's been really, really fascinating developing recipes without adding any of these seasonings that we do overuse slightly at home in terms of salt and sugar. There's a balance to be had with all of them, but I think the vegetable powders and herbs and spices have all had a very specific role to play in that flavour profile.
And with your experience as a chef, what's your sort of approach when you're coming to balancing that convenience with the flavour, seasoning, the real ingredients? Do you have an approach that you like to take to it to make sure everything is amazing when it comes out the other end?
Yeah, it was hard. As a working in kitchens, you often season as you go, and you have different ingredients in on the day, and you're playing around to kind of with roasting and frying or adding different seasonings. But actually, we had to start with sourcing the best quality raw ingredients. So actually, we did start by sampling over sort of 20 different tomato powders to find the right supplier. And then we got to a first stage of recipe development. We started with a benchmark recipe that we wanted, and then we toned it down slightly to working with a nutritionist to look at nutrient profiling, so looking at salt levels, sugar levels, fiber and protein. So it was difficult because I think my style of cooking at home is quite sort of French cuisine, so it's a lot more dairy, salt and sugar. Developing these was obviously very different, but I think having the spices to play with was really exciting, and there's a lot of umami that you can still get from things like mushroom and different herbs and spices.
Fantastic. I mean, it sounds like a completely different product. I think the instant soups that we're all familiar with, I think couple soup probably being the most famous one, at least in the UK, is for any UK listeners here. And I love the focus on vegetables that you guys have instead of trying to put those meat elements in, which always feel obviously synthetic, is maybe the best way to think about those. Is there a look to potentially explore meat soups later on, or is the focus for Soul Kitchen on vegetables for the time being?
My brainstorm of new product development is out of control, but I am fascinated by the bone broth category at the moment, which is growing very quickly in America and over here. But a lot of sort of research into collagen and protein from bone broth. I think you're right about the synthetic flavour. You can notice as soon as you open a packet of another instant soup product, it doesn't smell like food. It smells like a sort of starchy powder, whereas you get this real hit of warmth and spice and vegetable when you open our packet. The preparation is slightly different, and it's been an interesting one to communicate to consumers because instant soups are adding gums emulsifiers, palm oil to help with the preparation. People want a very quick, smooth stir, ready drink. We encourage consumers to add the hot water first, then add your soup, and then top up with hot water depending on your thickness, and then stir, rest a little bit just to allow it to cool, and then enjoy. And that just shows what the role of those synthetic ingredients have in terms of speeding up the preparation. They are there to make sure the dispersion is all even. Our soups do clump a tiny bit when you stir them, but that's because we don't use the rubbish. I'm always really impressed with other brands that are leading the way with that. You know, innocent smoothies, give us a shake. We're natural. It's really normal to relate to your ingredients, but it's just about how you communicate that and re-educate the consumer slightly. So there's lots of challenges to move people away from that category, but actually by proving that we're so much better, I think it's a really easy decision for them to make.
Definitely. And I think what you say there about, sometimes there's a bit of clumping, I think that's very natural with normal cooking. When you're cooking things, like sometimes things are going to get stuck to a pan, and sometimes you do have to think about, you don't want to over dilute stuff. So I think it's something that tracks, especially you're bringing real food development and real nutrition to the instant category instead of the other way around, which is what lots of other brands might have done. And I think with that comes that natural thinking of this is real food, so it's going to behave like real food, not like this instant fake food that's been out there in the past.
Exactly, yeah, and that's a really lovely way to put it. I think people are happy to put in the extra work if they understand why we stand out.
And I guess for those people that are listening, you've mentioned a lot about flavour development and sort of expanding the portfolio a bit. What's next for Soul Kitchen, and what can customers expect in the next 12 months?
Next 12 months, we will be definitely launching our 2 new Soul Kitchen Plus range flavours. This was something I wanted to launch with slightly more functional led messaging, slightly more superhero product. But what I'm glad we did in hindsight is launch a core range of soups that were all about nourishment, simple, familiar flavors with a twist, soups without being too scary about all these other lion's mane or extra protein. People, as a consumer, I think sometimes that shelf space becomes too overwhelming and they just want something that they're going to enjoy. But we have been working for about the last year on this functional line, which we have called Soul Kitchen Plus. So I'm excited to share that these 2 new flavors that we've been working really hard on, they are due to launch within the next month, led by a sort of lion's mane ingredient and then this amazing plant protein supplier that we met and have loved working with and developing recipes. So the mushroom soup will be your creamy mushroom with thyme and black pepper with organic lion's mane extract and a B12. So that's, again, a boosted range for those looking for more energy and focus. So this is an exciting one because I think it's very relatable for people working in offices who want to avoid that 3 p.m. slump. And people are familiar with lion's mane supplements. I've got some in the cupboard, but actually having it in a delicious, comforting format makes so much sense. And the same in the protein category. We're bringing out a super greens blend. A little bit of a play on your greens powder. We're using spinach, broccoli and leek as our core flavors. They're going to be seasoned quite gently. We're not going to put in the international twist to these. We have had some demand for slightly more mild comfort range, which I think is lovely for winter especially. But we've been able to make a high protein claim with this soup after a lot of hard work and this amazing ingredient, which is a sunflower seed protein.
Fantastic. That's amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited to see how they'll resonate with existing customers and also new customers, because I think there's an big overlap between the health food space and shoppers from Holland and Barrett who are also looking for comforting lunch. So it's a kind of, kill 2 birds with 1 stone, hopefully.
Well, those are such exciting flavors, and I think they definitely sound up my street. I could feel myself salivating as you talk through the creamy mushroom soup, and I feel like that's now what I need for lunch. So I will definitely be ordering some. And as you say, the blend of the lion's mane, which is obviously a mushroom itself, that's such a fantastic combination to put together. I can't wait to try them.
Thank you.
No, thank you. Thank you for making them. I guess maybe for those that are listening and they've sat here and they've thought, wow, this is amazing. I do want a better lunch. I'm tired of having to meal prep and taking my leftovers or spend hundreds of pounds a week at lots of restaurants in and around the city that they might be working in. What's the best way for them to try Soul Kitchen, maybe explore the flavours that you currently have available today?
So we are still small. It's obviously me behind all the emails, behind the website, behind the social media, but our website is very much up and running, and that is wearesoulkitchen.com. A lot of our customers find us on Instagram, shop online, and then end up coming back for more. We've even got a subscribe and save option on the website, it's just really lovely to watch people convert over to that. We sell through Amazon, and then we've got a growing number of amazing independent stockists who are the biggest supporters of Soul Kitchen. They're the ones putting me on the shelf, choosing to maybe take someone off the shelf and try Soul Kitchen, and that's real testament to them introducing healthier brands to their customers. And I think the independent food scene across the UK just needs a big round of applause, because they are such supporters of small brands and also the brands before they get too big, that they help them grow. So look out for us in your local health food store. We are a vegan brand and we're gluten-free too. So that's an interesting shelf space for us to fit in with that free from category. We've also found a new channel which suits Soul Kitchen as a brand, and that is food service, which covers everything other than retail. So wherever you can buy food from an outlet, such as a hospital, university and travel. And we've won a listing with Trans-Pennine Express trains and hopefully Eurostar over this winter. So that's a really unexpected win, to be honest. I knew the product would work in food service. We're great for sustainability with zero waste and ease of preparation without fridge space. So it makes a lot of sense. But that's sort of one of those lovely things that falls into place as a founder, and you think this could be something to go after. So yeah, train lines and hopefully some airlines would be an amazing one to have on the horizon.
Fantastic. I mean, that's so exciting. And I think anyone that is travelling anytime soon, please keep an eye out for Soul Kitchen in those in-flight magazines or in-train magazines. You might have as well. What a great opportunity to try the product.
But yeah, if you're looking to give us a try, we have variety packs available on the website. We'll be doing sample packs for the new flavours. And we'll kind of see the traction and then decide where to go with those 2 new flavours too.
The variety pack is very much how I discovered you. You were kind enough to send me some And I can
Oh,
say to anyone that's listening that all the 3 flavours that I tried were delicious. I actually shared one with
yeah.
my mum, and she is now going home to order some more herself, so it's all very exciting. So
Oh, that's so lovely to hear. Thank you.
no worries. Well, for anyone that's listening, I highly encourage you to go and try the variety pack, try the different flavors and see what's out there, because these guys are really, really innovating in this space and the food is fantastic. For anyone that wants to follow you on social media, what are the best places to find Soul Kitchen?
Instagram is where I'm probably most active. You can follow my kind of behind the scenes founder journey of silly things I get up to on a day-to-day basis. Most of them involve kitchen disasters. um, and that is We Are Soul Kitchen on Instagram. TikTok is something I should be putting more time into. I think it's an amazing channel for founders who are looking to reach new audiences, but follow us on TikTok. So yeah, those are the 2 I'd recommend checking out first.
I'll make sure I link all of them and your website in the show notes so that you guys and anyone listening can access them really easily. And then, Bella, finally, so we believe that a rising tide lifts all ships at Discover Startup. So I'd love to know finally if there's one startup that you admire or that you're connected with that you think that we should feature on the show, and why.
So many. I have so many people to thank in the industry for just being a shoulder to cry on or a text message away to ask for some random shipping code from Royal Mail. But I have got a founder that's come to mind, and she's someone I've discovered recently through a kind of pop-up store that we both did together. She's called Zara, and she runs Uji Oats. And they're kind of a delicious plant-based overnight oats looking to disrupt the breakfast category. I think the branding's beautiful. She's also an ex-chef, so you can guarantee they're going to taste amazing. I think she launched in WH Smith very recently, and she's got a lot of exciting things coming this year. So yeah, Zara from Uji, I think she's got a lot of really great insight to share. Her background's not food and drink, so she's learning it as she goes, but I think that's even more inspiring.
Fantastic. Well, we'll make sure to send her a message and hopefully get her on the show sometime. That's really exciting. Thanks for sharing her story a little bit
Thank
too.
you.
Well, Bella, thank you so much for joining me today and talking us about everything to do with Soul Kitchen. I hope lots of listeners go and try the variety pack and really get to experience your amazing product. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you today.
Georgie, thank you so much. These kind of opportunities are just a great way to make it all worthwhile. So thank you for having me on the show.
If you enjoyed this episode, you can support the founder and what they're building by checking out the links in the show notes, following them on social media, and sharing this episode with a friend. And for any UK listeners, you can enjoy 15% off your first order from Soul Kitchen when you use the code DISCOVER15 on their website. If you like this and what we're bringing you from Discover Startups, I'd love if you could take a second to subscribe to the channel or sign up to our newsletter. That way, you'll always be the first to know when a new episode drops. That's all for now, but I'll be back soon with another founder, another story, and another startup for you to discover. I hope you guys have a great day.